This title may contain explicit content, and listener discretion is advised. This title is narrated with virtual voice. Computer-generated narration for audiobooks. A Weekend of Firsts by Lila Mathews. Chapter 1. Chase dreaded the coming weekend. He was happy for his older brother, Mike, who would be marrying his girlfriend, Sarah, of 6 years. He just wasn't overjoyed about having to share a place with his family, his brother's mostly rambunctious friends, and about 20 strangers for 3 days. Well, that wasn't entirely true. There was one particular wedding guest that Chase would be more than happy to spend the long weekend with, if only it were just the two of them. Edward. Edward, such an old-fashioned name, but it suited the tall, lean, quiet, and intelligent man. Edward had been Mike's college roommate all 4 years. It was an arrangement that had worked out well. Since Edward's only living relatives were distant relations, he'd spent the holidays and breaks with Mike and Chase's family. Even after graduation, Edward and Mike shared a condo in Mike and Chase's hometown for 5 years. The job market was hot in the D.C. metro area, and rent was expensive, so it made sense. Over those 5 years, Chase and Edward had grown closer. Not as close as Chase hoped, but maybe now that Mike was getting married, Edward might share a place with him instead. Then again, it might wreak havoc on Chase's nerves to have Edward so near and not be able to be with him as more than friends. It was crush at first sight when Chase met Edward. Edward's quiet nature gave him an air of mysteriousness that Chase found attractive. Well, that, and Edward's smooth, pale skin, jet black hair, and beautiful bone structure. The striking combination often had Chase wondering how the man didn't have a successful modeling career. Chase couldn't picture Edward thriving in the limelight, though. He could, however, picture Edward in a few other places. Namely, bent over Chase's couch, in Chase's bed, up against Chase's kitchen wall, laid out on a rug in Chase's living room in front of a fire. The daydreams were endless, and Edward was always naked and in Chase's arms in the fantasies. Too bad Edward wasn't into men. Then again, Chase had never seen him with a woman either. Maybe Edward was asexual. Chase sifted his fingers through his short blonde hair as he stared down at his open suitcase. Asexual or not, Chase could still admire the man. His mouth spread into a smile. Thinking about being in close proximity to Edward for a few days in a row gave him something to look forward to at least. Chase loaded his suitcase, zipped it up, and carried it downstairs. In about 4 hours, he'd be deep in the Shenandoah Mountains with the object of his desire in eyesight. Chapter 2. Chase pulled into the gravel lot for the 10-bedroom cabin the wedding party would be staying in. He stepped out of the car, raised his arms high above his head, and groaned. It felt good to stretch his muscles. It had been a long, winding drive up to the place. He had to hand it to Mike and Sarah, though. They'd picked a beautiful location to get married. The lush, green mountains were a fairy tale backdrop, and the weather app on Chase's phone had predicted early fall temperatures and clear skies for the entire weekend. Perfect for an outdoor ceremony. Chase turned his face toward the sun and let it warm his skin. The crunch of someone walking on rocks drew his attention to the right. His breath rushed from his lungs as the star of all his wet dreams walked toward him. "Need any help?" Edward asked in his usual gentle tone. Chase could never tire of hearing his voice. Not that Edward talked much. He was as introverted as a person could be. And God, he was adorable in his black-framed glasses. Chase's cock twitched in agreement. He discreetly adjusted it as he pulled his single piece of luggage from the trunk and set it on the ground, then locked his car. "I thought I'd walk in and find you curled up in a chair, nose deep in a novel. I'm surprised to see you out here," Chase joked.
To keep listening to this audiobook, I've left you a link in the description so you can do it, at no cost thanks to Audible's 30-day free trial.